Princess Ilara ran through the ruins of her home city, her small feet kicking up dust and broken stones. The air smelled of smoke and burnt metal, and the sky was painted with red streaks from distant fires. Her heart pounded, but she forced herself to keep moving. The alien soldiers had taken everything from her, her family, her people, her home, but she still had one thing left: hope. She stumbled over a fallen beam and fell hard onto the ground. Pain shot through her ankle, but she gritted her teeth and pushed herself up. "I cannot stop," she whispered to herself. "Not yet." She wrapped her arm around herself for warmth, though it was more for comfort than anything else. The night was cold, and the wind carried strange sounds, alien voices, distant explosions, and the low hum of machinery moving across the ruins. Ilara knew she was alone. She had been separated from the few guards who had survived the attack. Every shadow could hide an enemy. Every sound could mean danger. But she had been trained since childhood to be strong, to survive, and to think ahead. Her parents had always told her that leadership was not about ruling from a throne, but protecting those who could not protect themselves. And now, more than ever, she needed that strength. Far away, on a human colony at the edge of the system, Captain Orion Kane adjusted the straps of his armor and studied the holographic map in front of him. The map showed the alien territory, the paths through dangerous areas, and the locations of recent skirmishes. His eyes were sharp, moving quickly across the data, and his mind was calculating. He had seen many battles, and he knew that every mistake could cost lives. The message had come that morning. A survivor had been spotted deep in enemy territory. Intelligence was unclear, but they believed it was someone important, a symbol of resistance. Kane felt a spark of curiosity and responsibility. Humans were not the largest or most powerful species in the galaxy, but they had something few others did: resilience and courage that could never be measured in weapons or numbers. And if anyone could reach this survivor alive, it was his team. Back in the ruins, Ilara finally found a temporary hiding place behind a crumbled wall. She pressed her back against the cold stone and tried to catch her breath. Every muscle ached, but she dared not make a sound. The aliens' patrols moved through the streets, their strange armor glowing faintly in the dark. She watched them carefully, counting their steps, memorizing their patterns. One wrong move, one careless sound, and it would be over. Memories of her family flashed in her mind. She could still hear her mother's voice, soft and strong, teaching her courage. Even when you feel small, even when you feel alone, remember who you are, Ilara. You carry the light of our people inside you. Never let it go out. Her mother's words were like a shield, and she clung to them as she moved silently through the rubble. Kane's team had begun their journey across the border into alien territory. Every movement was careful, every signal precise. They had trained for years for missions like this, but nothing could fully prepare them for the unknown. The terrain was unpredictable, filled with traps and automated defenses. Yet Kane moved forward, confident in his strategy and in the loyalty of his team. Humans were known for improvisation, and he knew that would be their greatest advantage. Ilara continued her escape, crawling through narrow alleys and climbing over toppled buildings. Her small frame allowed her to move quickly where larger enemies would struggle. She avoided open areas, sticking to shadows and ruined structures. Her mind raced with thoughts of survival and of finding help. She had heard rumors that humans had colonies nearby, though no one had seen them in years. Could they be her only hope? Kane paused as they approached a particularly dangerous zone, an area filled with fallen towers and deep craters from recent attacks. The map showed a survivor could be anywhere within this area, but the signal was faint. Kane crouched and studied the terrain. "We move carefully. No mistakes," he whispered to his team. The human soldiers nodded. Each of them knew the risks, Yet each of them had chosen to face those risks because they believed in something greater than themselves. The survival of hope, the protection of life. Alara felt exhaustion creeping in. Her ankle throbbed with every step, and her stomach ached from hunger. Yet she refused to stop. Somewhere, out there, someone would help her. She did not know who, but she believed that humans were not like the aliens she had faced. Humans fought not only with weapons, but with their hearts. That belief gave her strength she did not know she had. As night deepened, the sounds of the aliens grew quieter. Alara found an abandoned building and slipped inside. The shadows were thick, and the dust made her cough. But she finally felt a moment of relief. She leaned against the wall and closed her eyes, letting herself rest for a few minutes. She whispered a promise into the dark. I will survive. I will go home. Kane and his team had reached the first line of enemy patrols. They waited until the guards passed before moving, relying on silent communication and hand signals. Every step was measured, every decision critical. Kane felt a quiet pride in his team. They were humans, yes, but they were extraordinary. Even in a galaxy that underestimated them, they had the courage to act when it mattered most. Back in the ruins, Alara rose to her feet. She had rested just long enough to regain a little strength. She moved toward a narrow corridor that led to higher ground, hoping to find a safer route out of the city. She paused to listen, hearing the faint hum of alien machines in the distance. Then, from somewhere deep in the shadows, she heard it, a soft, steady sound, almost like footsteps but different. She froze. Kane's team moved carefully through the darkness. His eyes caught a small figure hiding behind debris, and his heart skipped a beat. Could this be the survivor? Every instinct screamed caution, but his mind was clear. This was what he had been trained for, what he had been waiting for. He signaled to his team, and they approached slowly, making sure not to startle the figure. Alara's eyes widened as she saw them. Humans. Real humans. Moving with careful purpose. Not as conquerors, but as rescuers. For the first time, in what felt like an eternity, hope filled her heart. She could not speak yet, could not run to them, but she knew she was no longer alone. Kane extended his hand carefully, not rushing, giving her a choice. We're here to help, he said softly, his voice calm but firm. Alara hesitated for a moment, then reached out. That small act of trust was the beginning of something greater, the start of a journey that would take her far from this ruined city and toward a future where humanity's courage and determination would shine like a beacon in the galaxy. And as she took his hand, she felt a small spark of relief and strength. The human warrior had arrived, and for the first time, she believed she might truly survive. Alara's small hand tightened around Captain Kane's. She had never been so relieved in her life, yet the relief was mixed with fear. The city around them was still crawling with alien soldiers, and every shadow could hide death. Kane understood her fear, but he also knew they could not hesitate. Every moment mattered. Stay close and move quietly, Kane whispered. His team spread out around them, covering every angle. The ruins were uneven and dangerous, but the humans moved like shadows, trained to make no noise, to see every threat before it struck. Alara tried to keep up, limping slightly, but Kane noticed. Without a word, he adjusted the straps of her small bag and offered her his arm. She leaned on him, feeling the strength and steadiness in his presence. They moved through narrow streets, stepping over rubble and avoiding pools of green liquid from damaged alien machinery. The city groaned under the weight of destruction, and the wind carried strange metallic echoes. Every so often, alien patrols passed nearby. Kane's team froze, waiting until the soldiers moved on before continuing. Each step was a careful calculation, Humans were smaller in number, but their speed and cleverness gave them an edge that even advanced alien technology could not always match. Ilara's ankle throbbed, and every step was a reminder of her vulnerability. Yet she pressed on, driven by instinct and hope. Kane noticed her quiet determination. "You're stronger than you think," he said softly, though not directly to her, knowing she needed to hear it. His team moved like a single organism around them, covering every angle, scanning every ruined building for movement. They reached an abandoned transportation hub, a skeletal building filled with overturned vehicles and broken glass. Kane guided Ilara inside, motioning for the others to stay alert. The area was safer, at least for now, and he needed a moment to think. They could not stay long. The aliens were already aware that someone had escaped. Every second counted. Kane examined a map on his wrist device. The exit route was narrow and dangerous, passing through an open plaza and then along a crumbling bridge over a deep chasm. He considered alternatives, but the direct path was the fastest, and speed was essential. Turning to his team, he gave quiet instructions, each gesture precise. Humans had a talent for improvisation, and Kane trusted them to adapt to anything. Ilara sat on the floor, trying to rest her aching ankle. She looked at the humans around her and felt a strange mix of awe and gratitude. They were not just soldiers, they were survivors, clever and courageous. She had never imagined humans could be so skilled, so determined. She whispered a quiet thanks to herself, hoping it would give her courage for the journey ahead. The first stretch through the plaza was tense. The moonlight reflected off shattered glass and twisted metal. Alien sensors hummed faintly in the distance, and Kane moved carefully, signaling his team to spread out. They slipped past detection with careful steps and silent hand gestures. Ilara followed closely, leaning on Kane when the rubble became too difficult. A sudden noise made her heart leap, a falling piece of debris from a nearby building. Kane reacted instantly, pushing her to the side and firing a small, quiet stun device at the sensors that had noticed the movement. The device emitted a soft pulse that temporarily blinded the machines. Ilara watched, amazed, as humans used both brains and skill to survive. She had faced danger before, but she had never seen courage and intelligence combined so effectively. The bridge was next, a long span over a deep chasm that had once been a river. The water below was dark, filled with the wreckage of collapsed buildings. Kane tested each step before moving forward, ensuring it would hold. Ilara followed, careful but limping. Her fear was strong, but Kane's presence gave her strength. The humans' calm, deliberate actions were reassuring. They did not panic. They planned, adapted, and overcame. Halfway across the bridge, the distant sound of alien footsteps grew louder. Kane froze, signaling everyone to stop. From the shadows, a patrol emerged, moving toward them. Kane assessed the situation quickly. He could fight, but fighting would alert more enemies. Instead, he used the environment. He triggered a nearby panel that caused a section of the bridge to collapse behind them, blocking the patrol's path. The aliens shouted, confused, and frustrated. But Kane and his team pressed forward without hesitation. Ilara gasped, impressed and slightly frightened. She realized that humans did not only rely on strength, they used their minds, their ingenuity. She had always been trained to think and survive, but these humans seemed to take it to another level. Her respect for them grew with every move they made. They reached the far side of the bridge and entered a narrow canyon, the walls high and the shadows deep. Kane guided them carefully, always scanning for threats. The canyon narrowed, forcing them to move single file. Ilara felt a surge of anxiety, but Kane kept a steady pace, and his team remained alert. She whispered a silent prayer, hoping they would make it to safety. Suddenly, a faint humming filled the air. Kane signaled for silence. Alien drones hovered above, scanning for movement. Kane's mind raced. He noticed that the drones had a pattern they scanned in slow arcs, returning to the same positions. Using hand signals, he guided the team to move in rhythm with the drone's sweeps. Elara followed, holding her breath as they moved through the shadows. Every step required timing, precision, and courage. When they finally cleared the canyon, Elara felt tears of relief welling up in her eyes. She had survived the city, the plaza, the bridge, and now the canyon. Kane and his team had carried her, guided her, and protected her. For the first time since the attack on her home, she felt hope. She realized that humans, though small in number, could be unstoppable when driven by courage and determination. They stopped briefly at a small clearing. Kane checked their route, ensuring they were still heading toward the safe zone where human scouts were waiting. Elara sat down, exhausted, but her heart felt lighter. Kane handed her a small ration pack and a water tube. She ate and drank slowly. Gaining strength, the humans moved efficiently around her, preparing for the next stage of the journey. Elara whispered softly, almost to herself, "I might survive. I might really survive." Kane glanced at her, offering a reassuring smile. No words were needed. The journey was far from over, but together, they had already overcome impossible odds. Humanity's courage, intelligence, and teamwork had given her a second chance, and she would not waste it. As night deepened, they resumed their journey. Every step was a test, every movement a demonstration of human ingenuity and perseverance. Elara felt herself growing stronger, not only in body, but in spirit. She realized that she was not just a survivor, she was part of something greater, the human determination to protect, to fight, and to endure. By the time they reached the outskirts of the alien territory, the first rays of dawn were beginning to light the horizon. Elara looked at the humans around her, exhausted but undefeated, and felt a profound sense of gratitude and admiration. Kane had not only saved her life, he had shown her the true power of humanity. And for the first time in a long while, she allowed herself to hope that she might truly go home. The sun had just begun to rise, painting the sky in soft shades of orange and pink, but there was little comfort in the light. Elara's ankles still throbbed, and every muscle ached from the long night of running, climbing, and hiding. She leaned heavily on Captain Kane, who moved steadily, never once showing the fatigue she felt in every step. The humans around them stayed alert, scanning the distant ridges and shadows for threats. The alien forces had realized the princess had escaped, and the pursuit was growing more dangerous by the hour. Kane knew the aliens would not give up easily. They were relentless, trained for hunting and tracking survivors. But humans were different. Humans did not give up, and Kane relied on that strength, now more than ever. Every step they took was calculated, every movement designed to outsmart their pursuers. Elara struggled to keep up, but Kane slowed his pace when he noticed her hesitation. "Take your time," he said quietly. "We're not leaving anyone behind." His calm voice gave her courage, and she felt her determination growing. She had always been strong, but now she understood that strength alone was not enough. It had to be paired with trust, with teamwork, with hope. The first challenge came as they reached a narrow canyon filled with jagged rocks and unstable ground. One wrong step could send them tumbling into the dark chasm below. Kane paused and studied the terrain. He pointed out the safest path, marking rocks and ledges with hand signals. Elara followed carefully, leaning on his arm when needed. His confidence gave her confidence, and for the first time, she felt that she might actually survive this journey. Suddenly, a shadow moved on the canyon wall above them. Kane froze, signaling his team to stop. Alien drones hovered silently, scanning for movement. Kane assessed the situation. Fighting would alert more enemies, but running blindly could be deadly. He took a deep breath and whispered instructions to his team. They would use the terrain to their advantage, moving silently along the ledges, hiding behind boulders, and staying in the shadows. Elara held her breath as they moved. Every step required careful timing, every movement required focus. She felt her heart pounding in her chest, but Kane's calm presence reminded her that fear could be controlled. Humans had survived countless battles, faced overwhelming odds, and Kane's actions now showed her that even in impossible situations, courage and intelligence could prevail. As they progressed, the alien drones became more aggressive, scanning closer and moving faster. Kane spotted a narrow tunnel leading out of the canyon and directed the group toward it. The tunnel was dark and cramped, forcing them to move single file. Elara struggled, but Kane's hand on her back guided her, steadying her steps. She realized that humans did not just fight with weapons, they fought with strategy, patience, and heart. The tunnel opened into a rocky plateau, where the wind blew fiercely and the sun beat down on the rough terrain. Kane paused to survey the area. From a distance, he could see alien scouts moving toward them, their strange armor glinting in the sunlight. He knew that confrontation was inevitable, but he also knew that humans had an advantage: creativity and adaptability. Kane signaled for his team to spread out, creating a formation that would confuse the scouts. Using small devices, they sent out noises and lights in different directions, drawing the aliens' attention away from their true path. Elara watched in amazement as humans manipulated the environment, using clever tricks to survive against a stronger enemy. She felt hope grow in her chest. Hope that humans could overcome anything when they worked together. The scouts realized the deception and tried to regroup, but Kane and his team were already moving along a hidden path through the rocks. The chase intensified. Elara's heart raced as she ran, her ankle burning with pain, but she refused to fall behind. Every step reminded her of what was at stake. Her people were counting on her survival, and these humans were risking everything to make it possible. At one point, a section of the rocky path gave way under Kane's weight. He caught himself and signaled for everyone to stop. Elara's fear spiked, but Kane reassured her. "Careful steps," he said. "We go slow. We go smart." The team moved cautiously, helping each other over unstable ground. Even when the terrain seemed impossible, humans adapted. They did not panic. They did not give up. They found solutions and pressed forward, demonstrating the resilience that had made humanity strong across the galaxy. As they approached a narrow valley, alien reinforcements appeared ahead, blocking their path. Kane quickly scanned the surroundings. Fighting head-on would be suicide. He looked for alternatives and spotted a small overhang above the valley floor. "Climb," he whispered. "We move above them." Using ropes and equipment carried for emergencies, the humans ascended silently. Elara felt her strength fading, but Kane's steady encouragement kept her going. Every pull, every step, reminded her that she was not alone and that humans could achieve the impossible with teamwork and courage. From their elevated position, they watched the alien forces below, confused by the sudden disappearance of the humans. Kane's team moved like shadows along the rocks, avoiding detection entirely. Elara felt awe at the humans' ingenuity. She had always known her people were brave, but she realized now that courage, combined with intelligence, could overcome even the most advanced enemies. Finally, after hours of careful movement and clever strategy, they reached a hidden path leading toward the outskirts of the alien-controlled territory. Kane paused to allow Elara a moment to rest. She sat on a rock, exhausted but alive, her spirit stronger than ever. She realized that survival was not just about running or hiding, it was about trusting others, staying calm under pressure, and thinking creatively. Humans embodied all of these qualities, and Kane had shown her their true power. As they moved forward, the sounds of pursuit grew fainter. Kane glanced back, ensuring no enemies followed. He felt a quiet pride in his team. Humans might be smaller in number and outmatched in technology, but their courage, intelligence, and determination made them unstoppable in the face of impossible odds. Elara looked at him, understanding that she had not only been rescued, but had witnessed a force unlike any other in the galaxy. Humanity at its best. By the time the sun was high in the sky, they reached a small valley hidden by cliffs and thick vegetation. Kane signaled them to stop for a brief rest. Elara sat down, letting the warmth of the sun soothe her aching muscles. She realized that the journey was far from over, but she had survived the night, the canyon, the chase, and countless dangers. She felt a new strength inside her: hope, courage, and determination. She looked at Kane and the humans around him and whispered quietly, almost to herself, "Maybe humans are stronger than I imagined." Kane smiled faintly, acknowledging her words without interruption. He knew that actions mattered more than words. The humans had proven their strength through every step, every decision, and every risk they had taken to save her. Elara allowed herself a small moment of relief, knowing that they had made it through the worst of the danger. But she also understood that the journey would continue. The alien forces were still out there, and the path ahead was uncertain. Yet for the first time, she believed in survival, not just her own, but the survival of hope, courage, and humanity itself. As they prepared to continue, Kane adjusted her pack and offered his arm once again. Elara took it, leaning on him for support. The humans moved as one, a perfect blend of strategy, skill, and determination. And as they walked forward into the unknown, Elara knew that no matter the challenges ahead, she was in the hands of a force that would never give up. Humanity. The valley offered a brief moment of peace, but Captain Kane knew it could not last. The alien forces were relentless, and somewhere in the distance, he could sense their pursuit growing closer. He scanned the horizon carefully, his eyes sharp and alert. Every shadow could hide a scout, every movement in the rocks could signal danger. Humans were often underestimated, but Kane had learned that patience, strategy, and courage could outmatch even the strongest enemy. Elara rested briefly on a rock, her breath coming in shallow gasps. Her ankle throbbed, and exhaustion weighed heavily on her, yet she refused to give in. Kane approached, crouching beside her. "We're almost through this," he said softly, though his eyes betrayed the tension he felt. "We just have to be smart and stay together. One mistake could cost us everything." Elara nodded, drawing strength from his calm determination. She had begun to realize that survival was not just about strength or skill, it was about trust, and Kane had earned hers completely. They began moving again, carefully navigating a narrow ridge that led to a dense forest beyond the valley. The trees were thick, and the canopy cast shadows that helped conceal their movement. Kane signaled his team to spread out, creating a perimeter as they advanced. Elara followed closely, leaning on him when the terrain became difficult. She felt a mixture of fear and awe, watching how humans could turn even the most dangerous situations into a controlled, calculated effort. Suddenly, a low, vibrating hum filled the air. Kane froze, holding up a hand to signal silence. Alien sensors had detected them, and reinforcements were approaching fast. Kane's mind raced, weighing options. Fighting head-on would be dangerous, but retreat could lead them straight into the enemy's trap. He glanced at the humans around him and felt a surge of confidence. Humans had a way of thinking outside the box, of finding solutions when none seemed possible. He noticed a series of jagged rocks forming a natural wall along the edge of the ridge. Kane whispered instructions, and his team began preparing an ambush. They set small decoys and traps to distract the aliens, making it appear that the humans were retreating while secretly controlling the battlefield. Elara watched in fascination as the humans moved quickly and silently, their intelligence and courage combining to create a force that seemed unstoppable. The aliens appeared over the ridge, their armored forms glinting in the sunlight. Kane's team waited for the right moment. Then, triggered the decoys. Lights flashed and noises echoed across the rocks, drawing the alien attention away from the main group. Alara held her breath as the humans moved past the confusion, keeping low and moving with perfect timing. She had never imagined that humans could be so clever in the midst of danger. As they moved into the dense forest, the terrain became more treacherous. Fallen trees and thick underbrush slowed their progress, but Kane remained calm, guiding the group with careful precision. Ilara's strength wavered, and Kane stopped to help her over a large fallen trunk. "Almost there," he whispered. "Keep going. You're stronger than you think." She nodded, feeling renewed determination. Humans were not just brave, they had the ability to inspire courage in others. The forest opened into a clearing, and Kane signaled for everyone to take cover. From a distance, they could see alien vehicles approaching, their engines low and menacing. Kane studied the terrain and noticed a hidden ravine leading away from the clearing. He whispered instructions to his team, explaining that they would use the ravine to escape the approaching forces. Ilara listened closely, understanding that the humans' survival depended on both courage and clever thinking. The group moved quickly, slipping into the shadows of the ravine. The alien forces pursued, their armored footsteps echoing through the trees. Kane led the way, guiding Ilara and the others through narrow passages and rocky terrain. Every step required focus and precision, yet Kane's calm demeanor kept fear at bay. Ilara realized that humans could remain strong even in the face of overwhelming odds, using both mind and body to survive. At one point, the aliens spotted them and fired a series of energy pulses. Kane reacted instantly, pulling Ilara behind a large rock and signaling his team to return fire with small, non-lethal devices designed to disable sensors. Sparks flew, and the pulse hit the ground nearby, shaking the earth. Ilara's heart raced, but Kane remained steady, showing her that fear could be controlled and overcome with courage and strategy. They continued through the ravine, moving quickly yet carefully. Ilara noticed the humans' ability to adapt to every obstacle, from shifting rocks to fallen trees. They worked together, communicating with gestures and quiet signals, ensuring no one was left behind. She felt a deep respect for them, realizing that courage alone was not enough. They had to think, plan, and act as one. As they neared the end of the ravine, the alien forces intensified their pursuit. Kane signaled for a final maneuver. Using the terrain to their advantage, they created a series of distractions, fallen rocks, broken branches, and hidden decoys to confuse the enemy. The aliens were forced to slow their advance, giving the humans a chance to escape. Ilara followed closely, her faith in Kane and his team growing with every step. Finally, after hours of tense movement and clever strategy, they reached a small clearing at the edge of the alien-controlled territory. Kane looked around, ensuring the path ahead was clear. The humans were exhausted, but unharmed. Ilara sat down, taking in deep breaths. Her body was tired, but her spirit was stronger than ever. She had survived the chase, the forest, and countless dangers. She realized that humans were not just fighters, they were thinkers, strategists, and survivors in the truest sense. Kane approached her, crouching to meet her eye level. "You did well," he said softly. "We all did, but the journey isn't over yet. We still have to reach the safe zone." Ilara nodded, understanding that the final stage of their journey was near. She felt a surge of determination, knowing that with humans by her side, she could face whatever lay ahead. The humans moved forward, keeping close and alert. The sun rose higher, casting light across the landscape and revealing the challenges that still lay ahead. Kane led the way with quiet confidence, his team following closely. Ilara leaned on him when the terrain became difficult, her trust in humans solidified by the courage, skill, and care they had shown throughout the journey. As they walked, Ilara whispered softly to herself, I will survive. I will get home. Cain heard her and gave a small nod, acknowledging her courage. He knew that hope was as powerful as any weapon, and that Alara's determination would carry her through the final stages of the escape. Together, humans and Princess moved forward, a force united by courage, strategy, and unyielding determination. By the time they reached the outskirts of the alien territory, the sounds of pursuit had faded. Cain allowed the group to pause, taking in the view of the open terrain ahead. The humans were tired, but they had proven their resilience and skill. Alara looked at them, feeling gratitude and awe. She realized that she was not just being saved, she was witnessing the true power of humanity, courage, intelligence, and the unbreakable will to protect life, even in the darkest moments. And as they prepared to move toward the human safe zone, Alara felt something she had not felt in a long time. Hope. True hope, born from the strength of those who refused to give up, who faced impossible odds with courage and cleverness. She knew that with humans by her side, she could survive anything. The landscape stretched wide and open, sunlight spilling over rolling hills and distant forests. Alara's body was exhausted, but her spirit was alight with hope. She leaned on Captain Cain as they moved toward the human safe zone, her heart pounding not from fear, but from anticipation. Every step brought her closer to her people, to the warmth of home, and to the safety she had longed for since the fall of her world. Cain glanced at the horizon, scanning for any signs of alien pursuit. He had been through countless missions, but this one carried a weight beyond any other. Saving a princess was not only a matter of strategy, it was a matter of inspiration. Alara represented hope for her people, a symbol that even in the darkest times, humanity's courage and determination could triumph. Cain felt pride, not for himself, but for what humans were capable of when they worked together and refused to surrender. Alara stumbled slightly, her ankle still sore, and Cain steadied her with a firm hand. "Almost there," he said quietly. "We can make it." She nodded, drawing courage from his confidence. She had survived storms, shadows, and chases through treacherous lands, and now she understood the true power of human spirit. Humans fought not only with weapons but with intelligence, patience, and an unwavering will. As they approached the edge of the safe zone, the first human scouts appeared. The relief in Alara's heart was immediate. Faces she could trust, people who represented the life she had nearly lost, came into view. Cain signaled them to hold back, giving her a moment to process what she was seeing. She could feel the tension in the air, the mixture of caution and excitement. The scouts greeted them cautiously, scanning for any sign of pursuit. Cain explained quickly that the princess had been rescued and that the alien forces were still active, but distracted by decoys and clever maneuvers. The scouts nodded and guided them toward the human outpost, a small, fortified camp hidden among trees and rocks. The outpost had seen many dangers, but none quite like this. The arrival of the princess was a moment of triumph for all who remained under human protection. Alara's eyes filled with tears as she saw familiar faces, fellow humans who had been holding on to hope even when all seemed lost. She realized that hope itself could be a powerful force, as strong as any weapon. She had survived not just because of strength, but because humans refused to surrender, refused to give in to fear. Cain's team had shown her that courage could be quiet, precise, and unstoppable. As they entered the camp, a small crowd gathered. Alara's presence inspired whispers of relief and awe. She had survived the impossible, carried through danger by humans who believed in the value of life, honor, and determination. Cain stepped back, giving her space to move forward. He had completed his mission, but the lesson he had shown was bigger than any victory. Humans could face any challenge and come out victorious through courage, intelligence, and unity. Alara walked slowly through the camp, supported by Cain and surrounded by the human team. She could see the scars of battle etched into the faces of those around her, Yet there was a light in their eyes, a resilience that could never be destroyed. She whispered softly, "I am home," her voice carrying a mixture of relief and gratitude. For the first time since the fall of her world, she felt safe. She felt strong. The camp commander approached, offering a respectful bow. "Princess Alara," he said, voice steady, "you have returned. Humanity's courage has saved you." Alara looked at him and nodded, understanding the truth of his words. The humans had risked everything, showing not just skill but heart, demonstrating that even in the darkest corners of the galaxy, hope could survive and thrive. Kane stayed behind slightly, watching as Alara was welcomed. He felt satisfaction in the success of his mission, but he knew the story was bigger than any single act of bravery. Humans had proven themselves, not by overwhelming force, but through determination, cleverness, and moral strength. Alara's survival was proof that even the most impossible odds could be overcome when humanity refused to bow. Alara approached her mother, who had been anxiously awaiting her return. The moment their eyes met, tears streamed down both their faces. "Mother, I'm home," she whispered, her voice trembling with relief and love. Her mother rushed forward, embracing her tightly. For Alara, that embrace represented the culmination of everything she had endured, the courage, the hope, and the unbreakable human spirit that had carried her back. The camp erupted in quiet celebration, not for conquest, but for survival and unity. Humans had shown that their strength was not only in their weapons or numbers, but in their ability to inspire, protect, and endure. Kane's team moved quietly through the celebration, their faces proud yet modest. They had completed an impossible mission, but more importantly, they had demonstrated the essence of humanity: courage, intelligence, and the will to persevere against all odds. Alara looked around at the humans who had saved her. She felt a deep sense of respect and gratitude. She realized that humanity's greatest power was not its technology, not its armies, but its spirit. Humans could face overwhelming danger and still find a way to succeed. They could inspire hope, protect life, and fight not for domination, but for survival and justice. As the day passed, the outpost became a place of quiet joy. Alara shared her story, speaking of the dangers she had faced and the humans who had carried her through. Each person she spoke to listened with awe and admiration. She understood now that the story was not just hers, it was a story of humanity at its best. It was a story of courage, strategy, and unyielding determination. Kane finally approached her, standing silently for a moment before speaking. "You've been through a lot," he said, voice calm but firm. "But look at yourself. You survived, and you are stronger because of it. Humanity is stronger because of people like you, and because of what we can do when we work together." Alara nodded, understanding the truth in his words. Humans were extraordinary, not because they were the biggest or the strongest, but because they refused to give up, no matter the odds. As night fell over the outpost, the stars glimmered above, a reminder that the universe was vast and full of dangers. Yet Alara felt safe. She had survived the impossible, carried by humans who embodied courage, cleverness, and unwavering hope. She had returned home, but she had also learned something far greater: that humanity, even in the face of the greatest threats, could shine as a light in the darkness. Alara finally rested, her head leaning against her mother's shoulder. The day had been long, filled with fear, struggle, and courage. Yet she knew that as long as humans stood together, trusted each other, and never gave up, hope would always survive. The future was uncertain, but humanity had proven that no force, no matter how powerful, could extinguish the spirit that Kane and his team had shown her. And as she drifted into a deep, peaceful sleep, she whispered once more, "I'm home, and I will never forget what humans can do."